What's up guys, John Burt III here, and we're back again for another video. In today's video, we're about to start the 6-part series of my crankbait setups. Yep, 6 parts. So you're going to want to stay tuned into this whole entire video series because we're going to break down every single crankbait setup that I have in my arsenal. So today's video, we're going to talk about the hybrid hunter. This setup right here is a little bit different because if you already know, Todd Castledine doesn't look at the hybrid hunter as a crankbait. But in all actuality, in a lot of ways, it's not. And he's 100% right. But then also in other ways, it is a crankbait. So this setup is going to be different compared to all the rest of the other setups that I have. So let's go ahead and we're going to jump into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is the reel. And that is the Team Lew's Tournament Light. So a little backstory on this reel. This reel was one of the first reels that Lew's brought to the market, introducing lighter weight frames. And so this reel weighs in a little over 5 ounces and is super lightweight, which if you know me, you know I like a lightweight reel. So that's why I chose this reel for number one. The other thing is this reel is very easy to dial in. All you gotta do is adjust your cast control knob right here. And then as your bait just starts to fall, that's where you want it to be. And then you adjust your external magnetic brakes. And so one thing that I didn't mention in the previous other videos when talking about picking a bait caster, the first thing I do is mess with the cast control. So your cast control, think about it like a car. The cast control is your gas, so that determines how fast it comes off, how fast it just takes off the line if you're racing. So think about it like that. Your external magnetic brakes, of course, what does brakes do in your car? It slows it down. So this slows the cast down on the back end. This starts up the cast. So that's going to determine how fast it comes off the reel. Now, some reels have internal brakes. And of course, again, that plays a part in slowing down a reel on the back end. But that's something that I just wanted to quickly bring up. And also another thing that I like about this reel is the EVA foam paddle knobs. It's super soft. It's easy to keep my hands on. And I like those. I think that's a pretty cool added feature on here. So that's my reel for throwing the hybrid hunter. All right, now going to the rod, we got the Team Lew's Signature Series rod, and this specific model is the Mark Zona Light Jig Ultra rod. And so this rod was designed to throw like really light jigs, so like maybe your 3/8, your 1/4 ounce jigs, and throwing like a weightless ocho or very lightweight, like maybe an 1/8 ounce weight on your ocho or any style stick bait. But this rod for me is great. So it's a 7'3" medium heavy, so it has backbone to it, but also it's a moderate fast. And so the reason I picked this because in my mind, I still look at the hybrid hunter as a crankbait. So I need the best of both worlds from based on what Todd Castledine uses and his applications and the areas he fished. And I just applied that to the knowledge that I have from the fishing local lakes around here like Lake Murray and Santee. And so I wanted a rod that was best of both worlds. So it's not a crankbait rod, but it's also not like a more stout rod. So this rod plays just right. So I need the backbone to be able to get the fish out of the grass. So that's why I chose a medium heavy. But also I need the play in the tip of the rod so that I don't rip the treble hooks out of the fish's mouth, which is why I chose a moderate fast. So when I found this rod and I added it to my arsenal, originally I wasn't throwing a hybrid hunter on this. I was originally using it for light Texas rigs. So I changed my mind and said, you know what? This rod right here will work perfect for the hybrid hunter simply because of the power and action. I think it's the best blend and best all-around option. So another guy that throws a hybrid hunter a lot that's down there in Texas is Andrew Upshaw, and he actually likes the Mark Rose Signature Series rod, the swim bait model rod to be exact. And so again, like when you're talking about Texas and South Carolina, those fisheries are totally different. So anytime you're picking out a rod, you have to make sure you match that rod up to the fisheries in your area. So I'm just giving you a good general idea overall of what rod to use, but you also have to match it up to the area. Now, if you talk to Castledine, Castledine's hybrid hunter rod is the Super Duty rod. And that rod, I actually have that in my arsenal, but we're going to talk about that later as to what I use that rod for. And it's probably pretty simple. You can probably guess what I use the Super Duty rod for. but he uses that rod a lot. And as if you watch his videos and you really listen to what he's saying and how he fishes it, and you watch what he does with the hybrid hunter, he really does some really unique things with the bait. So his setup that he uses, I don't see myself using that because I fish a little bit different from Todd. But also I took all the information that he has given me in talking to him about how he fishes it, from watching his videos and everything. I've compiled all this information, and I found that for me and the fisheries that I fish and the type of grass that we have around here, this rod works perfect. Now, when it comes to the hybrid hunter, I'm still playing around with sizes. And so I know Todd likes to throw the full size, and he also throws the junior. And so these are the two sizes compared side by side. You can see the regular size hybrid hunter is definitely bigger compared to the junior size. So I'm still trying to figure out which size that I like the most. Now, I do not vary the rod based on the size of the hybrid hunter or whichever one I choose to use. And my line doesn't change either. And so normally with 15-pound line, I feel like I can go either route with this. Now on the smaller hybrid hunter, they have smaller hooks. And so I'm also keeping that in mind as well. I don't really adjust my drag or anything. I literally keep everything the same because based on, like I said, in talking to Todd, he really doesn't change a whole lot on his end. Now, if you watch his videos, he uses 20-pound line on his, and I'm just like, man, that's stout for this style bait. But the way he fishes it, again, is totally different. And so anytime I'm picking out a setup for a particular bait, the first thing that I do is I go find an angler that dominates in that particular arena. So when we think flipping, I go to Hackney. When we think cranking, I go to KVD. When we're talking about throwing bladed jigs or thunder cricket, I go to Andy Montgomery. So that is my initial thought process when picking out the rods for these baits. And the more I start experimenting with them, that determines, all right, do I need to go up in power, down in power, up in action, down in action? What do I need to use to fish this bait more effectively? That's why I chose that rod. Because again, whether I'm using the full size or the junior, at the end of the day, that rod works well. And then the reel will send these baits a long way. I mean, straight up bomb cast. A unique thing about the hybrid hunter, if you have not had a chance to fish it, is the bill. You see that L-shaped bill? That bill is very unique. And at first I was like, this is an interesting bait. How is this going to fit in my lineup? And then last year on Santee, I noticed that the eelgrass is growing thick in a lot of areas. And it didn't hit me till after the season was done. And I just thought about it, I was like, man, the hybrid hunter will work perfect for this. So this L-shaped bill really combs through the grass really well. Now, it does get grass on it, but you make a couple quick pops and it comes right through. It's literally like the way I look at it, and some people call the square bill this, but this is like the 4-wheel drive of crankbaits, which is why I want a more beefier rod, which is why I use a little bit bigger line. But when you compare line sizes to what Todd Castledine uses, it's not as big. So my two setups pretty much give me best of both worlds. So whether I'm using a full size hybrid hunter, whether I'm using the shallow hybrid hunter, whether I'm using the hybrid hunter junior, my setup doesn't change. My line size doesn't change. My rod doesn't change at all. And so if you watch Todd Castledine's videos, you know that the hybrid hunter is his deal. I lean a lot on him when it comes to fishing these baits. And let me just tell you, there's something very unique about this crankbait here, because I went to a little small local lake and I threw the full size, because sometimes bigger baits intimidate me a little bit. But then when you look at the forage that bass eat, like giant gizzard shad, large bluegills and stuff, you start to realize like, oh, these baits aren't really that big compared to what they're really eating. So I threw the full size in the same exact color. This is smooth right here. So I threw this hybrid hunter, and when that fish hit this bait, it was literally like Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. I mean, he hit it so hard, and it makes you want to set the hook like it's a jig fish. So that is the crazy part about this bait. Until you actually fish this bait and you've actually used it, you will learn like, oh, okay, there's really something to the hybrid hunter, and you definitely have to have the right setup, because the way the fish attack these baits are on a totally different level. So that's it for today's video, guys. We got 5 more videos in this series, so make sure you stay tuned. If you're getting into cranking and you're trying to find the right setups for that, this video series is going to be great. We're going to talk about line sizes, rods, reels, and we're even going to talk about the baits and why I've paired all of them together to make this ideal setup for each and every style of crankbait. So make sure you share this video with your friends. Make sure you share this whole entire series with your friends. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned because we got 5 more videos in this series. I'm JB3, and I'll catch you later.